So Patricia, you live here in St. Bride's.
Yeah.
But you were born in Kilbride.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah. Born in Kilbride. Lived in Kilbride until I was 22.
And you married a man out here.
Married a man from St. Bride's, fisherman, and after a couple of years working in St. Bride's, St. John's, he says enough of that. I'm moving back home.
Back home.
And we had one little girl at the time. Then we had a mobile home. We moved mobile home and all out here, and then within a year or two, we built our own home here.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And you were a Walsh before you were married.
I was a Walsh before I was married, and I was known as Patricia Dohey in St. John's until I moved to St. Bride's. Then I became George's Patricia.
So you became George's Patricia because you took on your husband's name.
Yeah, yeah. And there was another Patricia Dohey here, so that's how we were distinguished. She was Kevy's Patricia and I was George's Patricia. Go figure.
And that was foreign to you, was it?
Oh yes, I had never been known like that before. I always had been known as Patricia Walsh or Patricia Dohey. I had never been known by my husband's name before, right?
So now local people would call you
George's Patricia. Right? Like if I'd be in a crowd and they'd address me, George's Patricia, I need you for a second. And I say, what? Because I was always known as Patricia. I wasn't known as George's Patricia, right?
So you lost the name again. The name
I lost my identity, but I got it back, believe me.
Fighting your border.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But that's the way it was. A lot of people were known like that, right? By their husbands' names. A lot of the women were known by their husbands' names.
That still stands today, does it?
Yeah, not so much now. But if there's people with the same name, you'll still hear it, right? Yeah, you'll still hear it, right? Yeah, because they're small areas, see, so it was common with the same last names for people of the same first names, right? Yeah, but that's how they distinguish them, by their husband's name.
Well, you know what? That's done at home as well.
Is it really?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah, that's a tradition at home.
Okay.
Not as much now as the reason it changed a lot at home is because a lot of people are getting new names, so there's a lot more new names in the mix.
Okay.
Now within our travelling community, that tradition is still carried strong.
Okay.
You still find it in some parts, but yeah. Now as well, here's one thing for you. Say there were so many men of the same name.
Yeah.
Say like John Power.
Yeah, but they weren't distinguished only by their father. They were distinguished by their father, like John Power of Albert Power. Albert's John, that kind of way, right? That's the way they would distinguish the men, but it was very few times they distinguished the men.
Would you give them nicknames like Black?
Yeah, they would. Like there's two men here, two Mike Greens. They were Black Mike and White Mike. Exactly. Yeah, right? Yeah. They do it like that, right? Yeah, or they'd say fishing Mike or working Mike. That kind of way, yeah. That's how they distinguish him. Something that was unique to that person. They distinguish him, right? Yeah.
That's still the same at home.
Is it really?
Oh yeah, certain families.
Okay.
Yeah, certain families be taking the name, yeah.
Yeah. I just find the families are so small now, they don't have to do it as much.
No.
Because, for example, you know where that little area there where the school, you know what I'm talking about, there's 5 or 6 houses. There's over 70 kids in those 5 or 6 houses. And there's not one child there now going to school. The houses, some are still being lived in, but there's no children there anymore. Our lane, where I live, in its peak, they were all around our age. We had about 35 kids going to school. There's not one now over there with small children going to school. Nobody. Yeah.
So it's changing due to population decline rather than even,
yeah. And people moving away, and for a long time the fishery was a hard way to have to earn a living. But it's so much better now with the prices. And when my husband first went fishing back in 77, he was getting 2 cents, 1.5 to 2 cents a pound for cod. That's what he was getting then. And I mean, it was hard to, but it was a free for all then. You could catch what you like, not like now. Everything is regulated now and quoted. They have no say in how much they catch. They're told how much they can catch, and they're also told the price up front. Back then, they could barter for price. This buyer might give you more for it than this buyer. Yeah, but not now. But it's a lucrative industry now. The fishermen today are very well off compared to what they were 30 years ago. I think when George's father worked hard all his life, but he didn't have any money in his bank account when he's finished fishing, right? Yeah.
Money was scarce years ago.
Oh yes, very so, right? Very much so. And I tell you another thing that was very strange out here too was, like when I first came here, I had worked in St. John's. I had grown up in a house where both my parents worked. that was a rarity here for women to work outside the home. They just didn't do it. They stayed at home and the men worked, and that was it.
And you were saying fishing as an industry, it's better than it ever was, you were saying.
Oh my gosh, it's way better. Like I said, the poor fishery now is cod. That's the smallest amount of money you make. But back when they went at it, when they were out in 77 and the early 80s, the only fishery there was cod. There was no crab then. There was lumpfish and cod. The lumpfish disappeared. Then they got a market for dogfish. When they got a market for dogfish, they disappeared. And then it was, thank God for the lucrative king crab. Boy, I'll tell you, the snow crab, it saved the fishery in Newfoundland, the crab. Like they're getting over $5 a pound now for pound of crab, right? Never heard of before. It's an unprecedented price now, right? Yeah.
And your husband, he fishes out of St. Bride's here, does he?
He fishes out of St. Bride's, he fishes out of Fortune, he fishes out of St. Lawrence. That's where they have the other two boats. Yeah. They're bigger boats, harder to get them into the harbour here, so they fish from there. Go for 3 or 4 days, fish, come back home again for a couple of days, then go again, right? Yeah. Then when they finish the crab, they'll go at cucumber. And then when they finish cucumber, they'll go at cod. Yeah.
And here's one question for you. Where is that fish being shipped to? Is it?
Well, OCI owns it, Ocean Choice International. Goes all over the world. All over. I know that the cucumber goes to China. Mm-hmm. I know that, right? Because that's only a new fishery too. Mm-hmm. That's only been in 4 or 5 years. Yeah. But the fishermen had to learn with that too, right? To go at these new fisheries, diversify and go at these. Like George said, he never thought that he'd ever see the day be fishing cucumber or even lumpfish in that, right? Yeah. But now the lumpfish is gone. That's gone. That fishery's over. It's not worth the while to be at it anymore. Yeah.
And tell me this as well. One thing at home, as we grew up by the sea.
Yeah.
Some of us ate fish, but not very many of us ate fish.
Oh no, a catfish, that's about it. That's all they eat. They don't eat any of the other fisheries they catch, like the pollock or the hake or... No. Maiden rays, no. Don't eat any of that. They only eat the catfish. That's... Yeah. And crab. That's it. Catfish and crab. That's it.
Would you eat fish yourself?
Oh yes. Yeah. I'd eat fish. I'm more of a fresh fish kind of person though. Deep fried. Yeah. George loves the fish too. Yeah. And I'm not so struck, and I'm not fan of the saltfish. Yeah. But that's staple food for Newfoundlanders, saltfish. Right?
Yeah. You were coming to me with your fish stew.
Yeah.
What would you have in your fish stew?
You'd have potatoes. Right now, you'd have a layer first of scrunchions with rashers and onions. You fry them in, take them up. Then you'd put in your layer of potatoes and a little drop of water. Then you put in your fish. Then you put your scrunchions and onions back on it and your hard bread on top. Yeah, right.
And would that be a white stew or a brown stew?
White.
White stew.
Yeah.
Bit of corn flour into it, then with your butter and corn.
No. That's it. That's the ingredients for the stew, right? Yeah, and a very little amount of water. Stews in its own water. Delicious. Yeah. Many's the stew George has made for the crowd down at school. He's better at making the stew than I am. Yeah, I have to say that. He's better at making the fish stew than I am. Right?
So there's layers. Tell me this. Do you remember as a little girl when you were thinking of layers in food, did you have Colcannon as children?
No.
Never had that?
No. We had, you know what I'm saying, even growing up in St. John's, because my mother was from Branch, well, in St. John's they didn't eat a lot of fish, right? But we did, because Mum was from Branch, so you go home and get your fish and bring it back, and very few ate saltfish, right? Whereas on Good Friday, saltfish is a staple food for everybody. Fresh cod or saltfish. That's what pretty well everyone eats on Good Friday in the parishes, right? Yeah.
And even now on a normal Friday, would you eat fish on a normal Friday?
Oh yes, lots of times. Not as much as we used to. But there was a time, I can remember growing up, we didn't eat meat on Friday. But now you can, right? But I can remember growing up, we weren't allowed meat on Friday. It was always fish. We had a fish or beans, white beans.
A white bean? White
beans, yeah, with salt pork in them, boiled with salt pork. They were there, and homemade bread, that's what you had. It was that or the fish on Fridays.
Did you ever hear that on Good Friday you wouldn't do certain things, or you wouldn't plant anything?
Oh no, you wouldn't plant, you wouldn't use a hammer, And like the fishermen do not go at their boats on Good Friday. Usually that's the time of the year they're getting ready for fishing. They don't touch anything. You don't touch anything with wood on Good Friday. You wouldn't use a hammer or nails. You were going to hell if you did that. You wouldn't use work with wood on Good Friday. I'd say it's the most reverent day that they had out here is Good Friday. More so than Easter or Christmas, it's Good Friday. And fishermen don't work on their boats on Good Friday. Very rare to see a fisherman working on his boat on Good Friday, right? And I mean, like most of the people out there are fishermen, right? But Good Friday was the one day you stayed clear of everything. Yeah, on Good Friday. You only did as little as possible on Good Friday. Yeah.
And do you remember years ago on a Sunday, some people wouldn't fish on a Sunday?
No, I'd say the fishing on the Sunday only came after the Moratorium here. They never fished on a Sunday before that. Everybody rested on Sunday. Yeah. Well, the malls, it's only about 15 years that they opened the malls on Sunday here. The malls used to be open on Sunday, but Sunday was your day of rest, was your church day. And now, once the moratorium was over and the fishermen went back to fishing, they had no choice. A lot of them felt they had no choice because they had to get their quotas landed and before the next fella got his or whatever. And that's how it came about to start fishing on Sundays. Yeah. And a lot of times fisheries dictated in the sense that they'd open the season on a Sunday. So the fishermen wouldn't wait for the next day, they'd go in that day, right? Yeah, yeah.
Were you ever told it was bad, certain days of the week, it was bad luck to move a house on a Saturday?
Oh yeah, well it's the fishery. It was Monday for health, Tuesday for wealth, Wednesday was the worst day of all, Thursday for losses, Friday for crosses, and Saturday was the best day of all. Yeah, that's what they used to do for setting nets. That's what used to tell the fishermen would say that saying, right? For setting gear in the water. Yeah, yeah.
For fishermen?
Yeah, for fishermen. Like, I can remember that Georgian would never set nets on Wednesday. I guess it was superstition, but they wouldn't set on Wednesday because Wednesday was the worst day of all. And Thursday, they found that they set on Thursday or Friday for cross, that means another fisherman would crash off their gear in the water. Yep. And I figure the crosses came from it being Friday, but they said they cross off your gear on Friday. It's like the gulls or the crows. You see the crows, 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy. It's the same as that, right? And those traditions are still very strong here.
So when you see one crow...
1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for wedding, 4 for a boy, 5 for silver, 6 for gold, and 7 for a story that'll never be told.
And say if you saw one crow now going up the road...
I'd bless myself. I would bless myself. Yeah. I still do. If I'm driving along the car and I see one crow, I still bless myself. That was something that we all grew up with. I say there's not very many people here who wouldn't do it. Wouldn't not bless themselves. They'd all bless themselves, right? And even to the kids, the kids know it. To bless themselves when they see one crow, right?
And would you wave at the crow or anything? Or
you put sign the cross on him.
You put sign the cross on the crow?
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. You put sign the cross on him and go away. I can remember one...
What, would you wave at him and go away?
No, we'd put sign the cross on him. They said you wouldn't wave at him to go away. No. But I do know that I can remember one time there was a lady buying a car. She told me the story herself. And she went into the dealership. She had it all picked out and everything. And while she was waiting for the salesman to get her the keys, the crow landed on the bonnet. And she said, no, I want that car. And he had to get her another one. She wouldn't take it. She had no motor's going to go in there. Just because the crow landed on the bonnet. Yeah. She said, no, never took it. I got another one instead. But it was strong, right? That those traditions are, and still are. I'd say there'd be an awful lot of people here who tell you about the crows, blessing yourself when you meet one crow.
And you know what? See, we have that with a magpie at home.
Okay.
And you don't have a magpie here.
No, we don't have it. That's the black and white one, isn't it? Yeah, we don't have that. No, we have the
crow.
The crow, right? Yeah. It's like that's also you'll hear that a lot when someone dies. Happy is the corpse that the rain falls on. Someone is getting buried and there's rain. You'll hear people saying it, oh, there's some happy today, the rain is falling on. I don't know what the meaning of that is, but you'll hear it a lot when someone's getting buried. If it's raining or drizzly or anything like that. Yeah.
And you were telling me a while ago that, when someone had passed away, the clocks would be stopped. Yeah,
the blinds were closed. And for example, I can give you the case of in Pont Lanx, my father went down there to a funeral. not being from out this area, didn't know what to expect. But anyway, he went down to the funeral, and just as they were bringing in the corpse, they turned every chair, and it was a chair, so it wasn't pews. They turned every chair bottom up, so the devil couldn't come in with the corpse. There was no room for him. And then as you came in, you turned up your chairs, you sat down. But there was someone said there was no any chairs that were empty were not turned back up, so there was nowhere for him to sit.
And was that for the devil or was it for the spirit of the dead person?
No, it was for the devil, to keep the devil out, right? It's like my mother told me. Some older lady in Branch, when she was growing up, told her never, when she found out she was going in nursing, never sit by yourself, never leave a priest by themselves when a person is dying, because as sure as God is there, so is the devil. Never leave a priest alone in a room when someone is dying without someone else with him. Like she told us that, she was, and she said it was more than her had been told that kind of a story. Never leave a priest alone by themselves, right? She said she said that's all she was ever told. That sure as there was good there was evil there. They were fighting for that soul then as the person was dying. Wow. Yeah. So you don't know, do you?
Now tell me this. Did you open the window when someone had died?
Oh yes, you'd open the window and let the spirit go. Say, yeah, let the spirit go, right? Yeah. Oh yes, that was very common. Yeah, and you say the rosary then, right? Yeah, you'd say the rosary right away. When you open the window and let the spirit go, you'd say the rosary. They're gone to heaven now, gone to God. Yeah.
And the wakes were all at home?
They were all at home till about, I'd say about 15 years ago. Yeah, they were all at home, right? My mother's uncle was a real trickster. Uncle Joe Nash, and this gentleman died, and he was in rigor mortis by the time they found him. So they tied him down to the bed. That time they tied him down to the bed. They'd only make the casket, put him in him to go to the church. And the night before he was getting buried, he crawled in under the bed and cut the rope. He only came up a little bit, but it came up enough to frighten what women were there, right? Because that time you stay up all night. Right? Yeah, you stay up all night, right? Yeah. Yeah, and now he said, Mum said that her mother told her, like, he got caught right away, but in the meantime, he still frightened a few women when Buddy sat up in the bed. Well, yeah.
And you know what? That story is repeated all over Ireland.
Isn't it? Yeah, I bet, right? And I wouldn't doubt, but that's where he got the idea to do it.
Oh, you wouldn't know.
Right? I can remember when my grandfather died, my mother's father. I remember my uncle making the casket. And he sent me down to my grandmother's to get the lining. Mm-hmm. And the same when they got buried, they wore the IHF, the robes with IHF, I have suffered on them. They wore them when they were buried, right? Yeah. Not like now you do them up to dress them up in the casket. Not then they just everybody wore the robes that time. Yeah. Right? The IHS on the front of it, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And the same thing again, there would have been parties and drinking in the houses.
Oh, yeah, that's when the parties start after they'd have the funeral. They'd have the big party, big, and maybe during the wake, right? During the wake, they'd. I remember when George's grandmother died, a few fellas came in that night around 12 and 1 o'clock and had a few drinks, and they didn't get too rowdy, and they wanted to sing, but they wouldn't let them sing, so they left. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that there were dances. Sometimes there'd be dances next door, and they'd be playing cards, and they'd be playing.
Oh yeah. It was a celebration.
Yeah.
And they'd say that's what he would have did, or that's what she would have done, right? Yeah. Yeah, it was a celebration, there's no doubt about that. Yeah. But a lot of that is lost now on the kids, right? An awful lot of that is lost, right? I don't know, not all for the good either, that is lost. Yeah.
And tell me this, say if someone passed away, would a neighbour make the coffin for him, or would they buy a coffin?
No, they were all handmade out here. Anyone that was good with their hands, carpenter wise, because every community had them. I know my uncle here in St. Bride's, Kevin, he did all the caskets here in St. Bride's, right? He used to make them all. Yeah. He had a little shed down, and I know when someone died, you weren't allowed to go in there, and that's why, because he was making the casket, and I guess he didn't want to frighten the children, or But I can remember that. I can remember making the coffins, right? Yeah. They were all homemade. Yeah.
And tell me this as well. No one sometimes there'd be different parts of the country at home. There'd be little traditions where maybe when the cortege would stop. Yeah. At a certain spot, and maybe a little prayer be said, or sometimes a little cross would be left in a ditch, or was there anything?
Well, here now, even when they die now, if for example, if they're coming down the road in St. Bride's, the hearse, they'll stop at that person's house, Even now, that takes place even now, right? Yeah, they'll stop at that person's house, and it's like a sign of respect, right? And I know, like my mother died last year, and my father, of course, was buried in Kilbride. She was 25 years later, but anyway, she was buried in Kilbride too. But so when we were passing through Branch, going to St. John's to bury her, we had the funeral mass out here. Where her house used to be in Branch, where she grew up, the hearse stopped. And look, paying their last respects, I guess, their last time, right? Yeah. But that's still, they do that now. The hearse stops at someone's house now.
And did they do that in Kilbride?
No, I don't think they did. Because what it was, they weren't going, like I grew up in Kilbride with funeral homes. So they were going from the funeral home to the church. So they didn't have to go, the church was down at the entrance of Kilbride. So they didn't have to go through Kilbride to get to the church. So I only saw that out here.
We do that at home now.
Do you?
Yeah, we do that even still, especially country areas in Wexford.
Yeah.
The other counties as well the same.
Yeah.
And tell me this as well, I see as well that you used to do it here, maybe not now, where the grave would be filled in that moment.
Oh, as soon as they die, as soon as they're buried, the family leaves, and immediately the grave is closed in immediately, right?
But have you ever seen them actually when the family are still there with the shovels?
Oh yeah, they're standing up there, right, ready to close in the grave as soon as the family leaves the graveyard.
Do you ever see them filling the grave when the family are still there?
Well, years ago they did. They used to start filling it in right away. Right now they wait. They give them the family a chance, but like they're just out of the graveyard when they're filling it in. Yeah. It's not. There's no delay. But I can remember, like when my own grandparents died, I can remember being there and they filmed in the grave. Yeah, I remember that, right?
Do you ever hear, I know it's more supernatural kind of stuff, but do you ever hear things like someone could be dead and someone would see a fetch of them?
Oh yes. Oh my gosh, that was common here. Like George's father, who was a very sensible man, very black and white. He told us he was going down fishing 40, 50 years ago, and he met this fella on the kelp path, they call it, the path going down to where the boats were. And he said, he found it some strange. He said, when they came home, they found it some strange that Paddy Conway didn't speak to him. And he had died during the night. He says he met him that morning on the kelp path going down where the boats were. And he was adamant, right? Now, my neighbour just up from me, I'd say about 20 years ago now, died. She walked into the brook right in front of our house and drowned. But it was the year of the Moratorium. My husband used to walk up on the trail, which was between our house and their house. And this morning he was coming down, him and the dog, we had a Springer Spaniel, him and the dog, and all of a sudden the dog started growling. George said he looked into the meadow, it was between our house and their house, a meadow, and he see this figure sitting on the rock. I said, what? He said, I see a figure, a lady sitting on the rock. So he said he went to the fence. He said, now that's someone trying to play a trick on me now. I'm going to find out who you are. So he said he went to the fence and he tried to get over. He said he was frightened to death. Every hair on the back of his head stood up. But the dog, he says, what really frightened him, because the dog refused to go into the meadow. He said, I literally grabbed him by the collar and he whined. He would not go in. Wouldn't go in. So George said, the heck with this. I'm going to find out now who you are. And he started walking towards her, and he said she stood up. She was back onto him. She stood up, and as he got, all of a sudden, 1 minute she was there, next minute she was gone. To this day, he swears was this lady that lived up in that house, right? Well, I know when he walked in that morning, he was ashen. His face, he said, I'm sure for the first time in my life I just saw a ghost. But he couldn't get over the fact that the dog would not go in the meadow. Would not go in there, right? So anyway, when you dream of someone or you hear something like that, you get a mass from. So he got a mass for her. And he said that's what she was looking for. She was looking for a mass. We say that around here a lot too. If you dream of someone that's dead, they're looking for a mass. Looking for a mass intention. You pass in $5 to the parish and get a mass in their name. Yeah. That's still very common to do that.
We have my own father had it at home. We the same as well. We say looking for a prayer.
Yeah, well, we say looking for a mass here, right? Yeah. And you don't know how many people have come through these doors and said to me, have a mass for such one. I dreamt about him last night. I can't get him out of my head. So they've got to get a mass for him, right? And that's still a common, more with the older people, but still common here. Yeah, still a common tradition here now, to have a mass for someone. Yeah.
And would you use that word of fetch?
A fetch, yeah. Oh yes, saw fetch, yeah. We'd use that, yeah. Saw fetch, right? Or spirit. We'd say that either, right? Yeah.
And it fetch would mean the ghost.
Yeah, the ghost, yeah, it would.
Or likeness of someone.
Yeah, right, yeah. Oh yes, George to this day, if you asked him, he'd say he saw Emma Foley that morning. Even though he didn't see her face or anything, but he swears he saw her that morning in the meadow. Like he said, it was 7 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't as if it was just breaking daylight or anything like that. But it took him about a week to get back up on the trail. He was afraid to go. Because he said he really believed. He still, I don't know. My mother used to tell me when her father died, her mother died suddenly. And her and her sister were staying with her father at the time. And the rocking chair started going that night, and she always sat in the rocking chair. And she said they got really nervous of the rocking. She said, we must have bumped up against it. And their father said, no, that's your mother. Very matter of fact. She said, no, we weren't lying going to bed, believe me, when it happened, right? Yeah.
You just said that was your mother.
That was your mother. Oh, that's your mother. He said, don't mind that, that's your mother.
Didn't bother her.
Didn't bother him in the least. He said, you weren't afraid of your mother when she was alive. Why would you be afraid of her when she's dead? So he said to him. And Mum said, we went to bed. We got such a friend. Mum was very strong-minded. She was way ahead of her time. I told her she wanted all of us. She had 3 girls that she wanted to be very independent, that you don't need a man to keep you going and all this kind of stuff. She brought us up that way, right? You know, because she said she was only 16 when she left home to go to nursing school in St. John's. I'd never been in St. John's. I'd never been off the Cape Shore and went to nursing school in St. John's. She said when she walked into her room, she went to Sisters Mercy's where she trained, and there was a nun there, and she said to turn on the light. She didn't know what a light switch was. She didn't have electricity out here. And she said, turn on the light switch. And she said, I learned, how to adjust. But she says when she looks back, she was only 16 and she never got home. That was in July, and she never got home again till Christmas. It's the first time she got home. You couldn't afford to go home, right? But she said, and you grew up an awful lot. All of a sudden, she said, a lot of the sheltered stuff you had in the outports was gone, right? Yeah.
Speaking of lights that are turned on and electricity, a lot of people said at home that when the electricity came, the ghost went. That's the kind of common.
Yeah, a lot of people thought that too, right? That there was a lot less sightings of ghosts when but now I don't know. There's to me, I still have the belief there's more to it than this life. There's got to be something after this, right? Yeah. I still believe that. I haven't ever seen anything, but I still believe that, right? That there's more to it than is on this side. Yeah, got to be. Can't be just this, right? Because some of us have it pretty good, others don't. So I think there's got to be more to it than this. Yeah.
Tell me this, do you ever come across out here, my own father, he had a home in Wexford, I'm sure other parts of the country as well, where lights to be seen. A light to be seen in the sky. Oh,
we used to have the ghost car in Branch Country years ago. When Dad would come out to Branch, there was very few cars then, of course, but they'd see this light ahead of them. The ghost car, he said that was for years, that was very common out there, the ghost car in Branch Country. But I don't know what ever came to it, but I know we grew up with it. We grew up with looking for the lights of the ghost car in Branch Country, right?
The ghost car? The
ghost car, yeah. So, because it was this light and people used to say it had to be a car because it was going too fast. Yeah, it wasn't lights most in the sky, it was the ghost car. But that was a common story out there, the ghost car in Branch Country.
And that's going through the bog here, over the bog?
Over the Barrens to Branch, yeah. That's where you'd be looking for that, right? The ghost car in Branch Country, we grew up with that too,
One thing at home you get at home is you get this thing called a black dog.
Okay.
And a black dog, when you mentioned the dog there, your husband's the dog.
Yeah.
We had this black dog would be fiery eyes, fiery tail. Now I never saw it, but people tell you they saw it. It's children years ago. It'd be a certain stretched road. This lad would appear and he'd chase you or he'd frighten you. Was he here at all? Was he?
No, he wasn't here. We never had a black dog. George and him went up in the grave or eat him, and the one you're going to see tomorrow. George and his body went up and had on white pants and they had shirts on, they had a white t-shirt on, took off their shirts and hid behind the headstones and frightened Eden, her friend, from coming down the road. George said, I paid for that dearly, but my father got his hands on me. But he just frightened the heart out of him. Yeah, they ran into the church, I think. They got such a fright. Thought there was actually a ghost coming out of the cemetery, right? Yeah. But that was all in fun, right? Yeah.
It's funny to say a dog will pick up on something. A dog will sense something.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear that?
Yeah. Oh yes, heard that 1,000 times about how dog can sense something, or I will say this to you though. I remember when my father was sick, because Dad always had a dog his whole life, right? And when he was dying in the hospital in St. John's, the dog would always sit by the door. Our dog home, that was his dog. It'd sit by the door, and the night he died, we'd open the door and the dog would be there. The night he died, he was in his bed not to say he knew he was gone. We couldn't get over that, because when we come home every night from the hospital, he'd be right there by the door looking up as much to say, is he coming home? But the night he died, when we came, he wasn't by the door, he was in. And it was the same time, pretty well the same time all the time, right? We didn't remark that, how the dog hadn't stayed out by the door that night.
He
right?
knew.
It's almost like he knew, right? And I'm after hearing people tell them that before. They knew, the dogs knew, or the animals knew, right? Yeah, yeah. Especially dogs. Yeah, especially dogs, yeah.
We have it at home as well. They said if a bird came in and hopped around, it'd be a sign of a death. There'd be signs. Yeah, the Robin said was it.
Okay, yeah.
Did you get any other signs? Did you ever hear?
I'm after hearing of them now. I'm just trying to think of them, but I know it's. I'm after hearing of signs of a death coming. Right. I know dream of a wedding is a sign of a death. If you dream of someone getting married, it's a sign of a death. You wake up and say, "God, I had a dream about someone's wedding." It's a sign of a death. And even today, you'll say that, right? Dreamt about someone last night to get married. Sure enough, there's going to, and it's like the three in the grave. Do you have that?
What's that?
The three, one opens it, one fills it, and one closes it. We have that out here. And I'm telling you, Michael, I'm here 35 years. You don't know how often people die in threes out here. I'm always amazed at how often people die in threes. And they always say one opens it, one fills it, and one closes it. And that's really common out here for people to go in threes. Matter of fact, when there's two dies pretty close to each other, they'll say, where's the third? Yeah. That's really common out here. They go in threes. But I've seen it over the years, right? Within a 2 or 3 week span, there'll be 3 people dying. Then you might go 2 months, then there'll be 3 people die again, right? So you wonder, is there actual truth? There must be a reason it came from somewhere. Yeah.
Do you use the 3 knocks on the door?
No, I never had that. But I do know Bill Cannell, who's long gone in Branch now, told me himself that when my grandfather was dying, he had a heart attack and he's up in the house by himself. Someone knocked on his door that night and he went out. Him and his brother lived by themselves. They went out, no one there. Came back in, knock came again, he went out again. And he said to his brother the third time, I'll catch him this time, come stand by the door. So he said when the third knock came, he opened the door and there was no door, but he went out. When he went out around the corner, he saw the flashlight going back and forth from my grandfather's room, which was just across the road. And so that's how he ended up dying on the way to Pacentia. But he swears that it was my grandmother that knocked on his door that night so that my grandfather wouldn't die alone. He used to tell me that story. He said, Patricia, there was nobody there. The knocks were there, but there was nobody there. And he went to his grave telling that story. That he really believed that she came back, Maggie May came back that night to save Peter Willie. Yeah.
I hear that at home too. Or a cock crowing 3 times.
Yeah, that's another thing. But that comes from the Bible, see? Right? Comes from St. Peter in the Bible. That's where it's like I told you the other day, even though it's a different reason. We always grew up with the one for sorrow was because the crow never came back with the ark. It didn't come back. And that's why I wasn't trustful. And it was a bad omen that the crow never. That's what we always were told. It's like the 3. I told you the 3 on the match.
Yeah. What was that again?
The 3 on the match was if a soldier could light a cigarette, 3 cigarettes with 1 match. That means the enemy could see him. And here you would. Well, not a lot of people smoke anymore now, but you would never light the 3rd cigarette on a match. You'd only light 2, blow it out. Yeah, but that's where that came from the soldiers at war. If you. Like I said, if you could light 3 cigarettes, that means it was enough light for the enemy to see you. It was light and long enough for the enemy to see you.
Yeah, for a sniper or for
to see you, yeah.
And it would have been a lot of people from, say, Brides and all would have fought in the First World War.
Oh yeah, a lot of people from Branch too fought in the First World War.
Branch, yeah.
Yeah, Branch, yeah. Out from, except Pontlands. I don't think there was a lot from Pontlands, but everywhere else out there was people from that fought. Mum used to tell us that they're going at the buses coming through Branch. She was young, right? And They were so cheerful, and she said then you used to hate during the week if you see the priest coming, you know that someone's after being killed, right? Oh, she said, how often did they, be frightened to death what house the priest was going to knock on when he come, right? Yeah.
With a telegram.
With a telegram, or he'd come and tell them the news that someone had been killed, right? Yeah. And it even meant in the winter, summer, lots of times during the winter they didn't get mass, but the priest always managed if someone died to get over and get that word out, right? Yeah. More so in Brent, I think it was more so in Brent they lost people than over here. Yeah, yeah. But she said, I'll never forget those black buses, and I'll never forget the priest coming knocking on doors, telling people that there was someone dead belongs to him, right? Yeah.
Are we talking the First World War? Or
yeah, first I'd say, because sure, Mum died, she was 87. So it would have been 60, yeah, I'd say it was the first one, because it would have been 60, 70 years ago. She was only a young girl. Would have been 70 years ago. Right, so it was probably the Second World War. Yeah, Second World War, yeah. It would have been the Second World War. Yeah. But she said she could remember when they went off to war, they had nothing. They had nothing, she said, when they went to war. Yeah. But yeah, she said it would have been the second, because she...
Second World War,
yeah.
And there were probably loads from here in the First World War as well.
Oh, I'd say there was, because when we do the roll call, you see it down in school there, yeah. And most of them are First World War. Yeah.
Tell me this as well. Was there, because this was there was a strong Catholic community, wasn't it?
Yes, very strong Catholic community, yeah.
And there was no bother at all going joining the regiments to go fight in the war, was there?
No.
Were they enlisted or conscripted?
Yeah, no, it was never conscripted because we weren't part of Canada, see?
Okay.
Right? Newfoundland was only part of it, was only part of the Commonwealth of England.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I find here the people here are very indifferent to the monarchy. Few people have passion for it, but most people are very indifferent to that. Whereas in Ireland, not good, is it?
No.
But it wasn't a big thing for us.
No,
the monarchy, I think we were so far removed over in England. And we were our own province, like we weren't part of Canada then. We were Commonwealth of Newfoundland, was it? I don't know what it was now. But I know we were just ruled by England. We had the Governor General, but other than that, we didn't have it wasn't a big influence on us, right?
Did you have any, when you were growing up as a child, did you hear any stories about Ireland? About your people, where they came from?
Oh, yes. My mother's ancestors were Tam Nash. Like, she told us that, right? But they were big on history too, knowing your roots, and right? And I can remember telling us it was because of the potato famine, and they came to Branch originally, all right? Yeah, and settled there. Mum used to tell us that Thomas Nash was the first of their family to move to Branch. Yeah, he settled Branch, I think, but she used to say he came over from Ireland, and and then they over here in St. Bronx, I know that there was two brothers split. One went on that side, one went on that side. Don't know what happened over here, right? Dad used to say that was the Irish coming out. Yeah, but they did. Your history was important. Where you came from, right? It was important. And I found out here always people associate themselves more with Ireland than they do with a lot of times with Canada. Right? Like they still consider, like you go in St. John's, I can remember bringing a friend of mine, Tracy, my daughter, came home from Calgary, and she had a friend of hers, and we brought him out to Cape Spear. And the first thing the tour guide told us, this is the closest place to Ireland in Canada. She said, directly across the sea from here, this is the closest distance to Ireland. Yeah. And like that's in St. John's, which aren't big on the traditions, right? Yeah, that's part of the tour. She told us that this is the closest place to Ireland.
And knowing your father was telling you about the potato famine in Ireland, the famine in Ireland, like, would he have went to school and learned that, or would have been passed on to him by his
I'd say Mum would have passed it on. Mum's family would have passed it down, right? Because Dad's father was a farmer as well in Kilbride, right? He was a farmer. And I can remember Dad's father telling me, like we didn't have hardships like they had in Ireland, and ended up coming to, and like he said, they literally were starving to death when they came to Newfoundland. He said from Ireland, they were starving to death, right? Yeah. And had no choice. They had to get out and go you know, and it ended up, they started out as farmers and ended up as fishermen because there was more fish than there was farmland. Yeah. But I can remember those stories. I can remember Nan telling us those when we were younger, right? About the famine in Ireland and how it wiped out so much of the population. And I didn't know where Ireland was then from Timbuktu, right? But it was your roots. It was where your family was from, and they had no choice but to leave the place they loved the most to come to try to make a living for their families. And that was big, to tell you that. Yeah. Like that was part of your heritage. You had to know those kind of things, right? Yeah.
And would your mother have learnt that in school?
I'm sure she learned some of it, but her father was a real history buff too. So I could see him, you know, teaching him what he had known, right? Yeah, yeah.
So passed on and passed on.
Yeah, passed down. I'm sure a lot of it was just passed down and down through, right? Because like Mum said, when she went to school, the girls went to school, but the boys didn't. The boys only went till they got to grade 7 or 8, and then they went off working, fishing or farming or whatever. There was only the girls that stayed in school.
And who taught you? Was it a Catholic school or?
Oh yeah, well see, I was out here was Catholic, so it was a Catholic school, and she said their teacher was a Catholic as well, right? Yeah, but they used to have classes like a day, and then after supper, if you felt they needed extra classes, they had to go back to school. Yeah, but it was the girls, it wasn't the boys. The boys were out working or fishing or whatever now, doing gardens. And like I can remember my mother telling me growing up that they'd survive. If something happened, outports, she used to tell us, outports will survive because they have their own fishery, they have their own gardens, whereas they don't need store-bought stuff like ye do, right? You know, she used to tell us that. She'd tell us about they get the big barrel of molasses in the fall of the year. Their father would buy it, right? And it had to last them all the winter. It was like the saltfish and the mutton and the chickens and the hens. But like she said, they didn't go, never knew what a store was, right? Yeah. And they'd survive. Like she said, they wouldn't have survived in St. John's the way they would have survived in outports, right?
Because you had to.
Yeah, you had to. You had no choice, right? You knit your own sacks and whatever, and you patched up your clothes. And George tells the story. I mean, George was only 64. He tells the story. He was 10 before he realised it was meat and stew. Because their mother was a homemaker. Their father, they had 13 children. So I'd say she had very little meat that she could put in stew. She likes vegetables. George said, I was 10 years of age and didn't know there was meat in stew. I thought it was just vegetables. Because, of course, the kids were living on the vegetables. Yeah. Yeah.
It was funny, so my father was the same. That you get very little meat years ago.
Yeah.
You got loads of meat now.
Yeah, loads of it now. And like George said, he can remember, they never had turkey for Christmas. It was always mutton, right? Mutton or beef. They kill a calf or they kill the cow. Yeah, so it was always mutton or beef for Christmas. It wasn't a turkey dinner like they have today, right? Yeah, yeah. But he said he can never ever remember going hungry. He can never remember not 3 meals on the table, right? Yeah. Yeah.
It's an interesting one you said as well. They came as farmers but ended up fishermen.
Yeah, that's what Mum used to tell us. They came as farmers to farm the land, but realised that the fishery was bountiful. There was so much fish. Well, there's a saying in Newfoundland, Cape St. Mary's pays for all. A fishery saying, right? That there's always fish in this area, right? Yeah. Sure, even when the Moratorium was on and there was no codfish anywhere, there was still fish here. Just they weren't allowed to catch it, but there was still fish here. Yeah. But yeah, that saying, Cape St. Mary's pays for all. Yeah. But Mum said she can remember for so long the flakes of salt fish. Oh my God, you go home after school and it'll probably be 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening before you get home then. Turn the fish.
Dry.
Yeah, to dry, turn the fish. She said you did that for, your back could be broke off, she said, doing it, but you did it. You had no choice, right? And she also said that wasn't the boys' job, that was the girls' job to do that, to turn the fish. Yeah.
So the women worked as hard as the men?
Oh, indeed they did. Indeed they did, right? And a lot of them I found, like, because they all had such big families, you never knew. Now they do, looking back now, I realise like George's mother would be up early in the morning, but they'd be in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock in the night time because they worked by the daylight hours. So even when electricity came, they still liked to work by the daylight hours. So they'd go to bed early because it's going to be another long day again the next day, right?
And be up a cock crow then.
What? Yeah.
To be up a cockcrow.
Yeah. Well, George, I'd have a heart attack if I woke at 6 o'clock in the morning and he was still in bed. He never could sleep in. Yeah. But he said that's the way all the boys in the house, their father had them up when they were younger, right? Yeah. And it just grew up with him, right? Yeah.
Did you have that one as well when the evenings were getting brighter to be a cockstep?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. And another thing they said about there was the stiles. It's where they had closed the gate.
Yeah.
And they'd have the stiles, the little steps to go over it. Mm-hmm. That's what they were everywhere out here. Everywhere. No one had vehicles then, right? So they used to close the gates so that they could let the animals, the sheep and that go in the yard. And you came in and out over the stiles, right? Yeah, I can remember that. A lot of that stuff is gone now, right? You don't see it anymore, right? Yeah.
The stiles, yeah.
Yeah. Did you have them now, the stiles?
Yeah, you did have them in England now. But the stiles over a ditch or over a fence.
Yeah. We had them over. They had the gates closed, and they'd have it right next to the gate. Yeah. They were out here, common everywhere here, right?
Yeah. Did you have mass pats here?
No.
A mass pat at home would say the church was here, like here, and say there'd be a road going down there.
Oh yes, we did. Up where we live now, it's only about 30 years ago they put a road there. It was a path, and they used to come down. The women from the hill used to come down that way to go to mass in the evening. Yeah, they always came down that way. Yeah, that's the only time that was used. Well, now that you say it, when the women had come to go to mass. Yeah.
A mass pat,
Yeah, mass pat. Now I just never related the name to it, right? Yeah, but they used to have those paths from to come down to go to mass, right? Yeah, it's like George said. They used to go to mass every morning before they go to school. The priest would have mass before they went to school in the morning. He'd have mass again in the evening, but he'd have mass in the morning. And they'd have their mother, George said, I often see her hit me with the wet face cloth to get out and go to church.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Get out, she'd say, go to mass. Every one of them went to mass before they went to school. Yeah. That was expected. Yeah.
And you were fasting as well, were you? Would you fast every day for Holy Communion?
We'd fast the hour before Holy Communion. It was 3 hours at one point, and then they changed it after Vatican II, I believe, to an hour. Yeah. An awful lot was lost from Vatican II. Yeah.
You got rid of the altars as well here, didn't
you? We did, and turned the priest around, right? Well, I know I was ordering, I was down to school about 2 months ago, and I was ordering some linens for the altars. The church father had said to me, and I said, I must phone that order, and there was a couple of kids standing up there, a couple of grade 11 girls. I said, I got to order them corporals, and they said to me, corporals? What are corporals? Like when we grew up, we had to know all the different linens in the church, right? No, they didn't know that. They thought I was talking about the army. And I was talking about corporals, yeah.
Tell me this, can you remember, were there any holy wells here? No, there's Father Duffy's well.
Oh yes, Father Duffy. There wasn't so out here. There's a place in Branch that you do get water, but I don't think it's considered holy. But there's like a spring just outside of Branch going towards Beckford. But no, Father Duffy's well was the closest one, I think. But I can remember going there on a Sunday from St. John's, going out to Father Duffy's well, getting water, getting holy water. You know, water that they'd bring home and they'd use it for when you had ailments, and because holy water was always a strong thing in the houses, right? Yeah, it was the holy water.
Did your mother bless the four corners?
Oh yeah, and we'd have, when you moved into a new house, like I remember when we moved into our house from the trailer, we couldn't sleep there overnight till we got the priest in to bless our house, right? I don't know if they do that now, but that was only 40 years ago. Yeah, you had to get the priest in to bless your house before you'd move in, right? Yeah.
Do you ever see when they were building houses, maybe you and George did this at home sometimes, but money?
Money, the dime. We'd put a dime in the corner in the foundation. Yeah, because you'd never be broke. You'd never be broke if you put in the dime, right? Yeah, we put the dime in that. We did that when we built our house. We put the dime in the corner. Yeah, right? Yeah, we did that.
You did not?
Yes, we did. Oh, yes. You put the dime in the corner of the foundation because you were expecting you'd never be broke. As long as you had that dime in there in your foundation, you'd never be broke.
In one corner or four?
No, we put it in one. In one, right? Yeah. But you put it in, right? Yeah.
A man was telling me yesterday, you'd see when you were taking part in the old houses, you'd find holy medals in the
cills. In the cills, right? But I can remember growing up with the medals. Especially Miraculous medal. Oh my gosh, because you do wear the blue one in May, and you wore the red in, but you always had the blue one, always had the Miraculous medal in the centre. And the fancier the little bow you had around it, the higher up you were in the Catholic system, in the sense of, but you always wore the blue, and you always wore in May, and you wore the red ribbon with the medal in June.
Did you have the Maytree here? No.
Well, I can remember George and him talking about it, but it was more, and even I asked him about it after he did it down in school, and he said it was his mother and father remembered it. He remembered years ago them talking about it, but in his lifetime he didn't remember anyone around here putting them up. He knew they put them up in Pointlance and Branch, mainly Pointlance, he said. But he knew exactly what I was talking about when I went home that day. He was telling about the Maytree.
So George, your husband's father, mother and father, he lived here, did he?
Yeah, he lived in St. Bride's. Yeah.
He had a recollection of it.
Yeah, he remembered them talking about the Maytree. Yeah. But he said it wasn't so big here as it was in Pointlance. He said it was big in Pointlance, right? Yeah.
Isn't it gas?
Yeah.
And did you see the little medal in the cills? Have you heard that?
I heard of it. I didn't see it, but I heard that of the medals in the cills, right? Yeah. Yeah. It's like the picture of the Sacred Heart. That's the first picture you had to put up in your house. Yeah. It's the picture of the Sacred Heart when you moved into your house.
And did you put the blessed palm up around your house?
Oh yes, still do. I have it home now. I have it home over my stove. And like the candles, you get the candle, you dip it, you make the sign of the cross on your head, and you make the sign of the cross on your shoulder, and then also we put it on the stove, so it wouldn't burn or anything, right? Yeah. And Candlemas Day, you go home with the candles and make the sign of the cross with the wax.
And Candlemas Day, that's when you'd light name of the Father, the Son,
Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Yeah. That's what you do. You bless them with the. Yeah, but the palms are still, like I have them up in my house now.
Yeah.
Right, you wouldn't not put it, and George have it down the boat.
Yeah.
Have to bless the palm down the boat, right?
Down the boat, you'd have that?
Yeah, oh yes, you have that down the boat, right? Yeah.
And one thing as well with George, did George ever put a whole little bottle of holy water?
Oh, he has it down there now in the boat.
Does not?
He does so, have a bottle of holy water. Yeah.
Or where would he have that?
He'd have it in the wheelhouse. He'd have a little bottle of holy water. Wouldn't go fishing without it. And he's also got that, and he got a St. Christopher medal that he has in the boat. Yeah. But wouldn't go out fishing without the palm or the holy water or St. Christopher's medal. So I mean, that's the way they were brought up, right? And I'd say the day the father blessed the boats down here in May, he went to every single boat and blessed them with holy water. And it was freezing, but everybody stayed there because everybody wanted their boat blessed. Yeah.
Would you bless your cars here?
No, not your cars, but your boats, yes.
Would you put something holy in your car?
Oh, yes. You'd have those little, I'm a Catholic, case of accident, you'd have one of these. Or you'd have rosary beads. A lot of people hang rosary beads in them. Or they have a little cross that they hang in their cars. Yeah.
Do you ever see them hanging rosary beads on a washing line for a fine day?
Oh, yes, to get a fine day and especially for a wedding. We do it even now, like when my niece is getting married now in July. And I'll go out that morning and hang the rosary beads on the clothesline. That'll be a fine day. Yeah. Yeah. We still do that. I did that for our 3 daughters when they got married. Hung the rosary beads on the clothesline. Yeah, so they'll have a fine day for their wedding.
Do you ever come across the one where there'd be, say if you're trying to sell a house and you'd no luck selling it, you'd buy a statue and you'd bury him upside down?
No, I never heard that one.
Heard that one?
No, I never heard that one, right? Yeah.
He's a prayed St. Anthony here, wouldn't you?
Oh my gosh. St. Anthony's staple. Yes. Especially when you lose any. Even in school, we'll say to the kids, pray to St. Anthony when they can't find something, right? Yeah, pray to St. Anthony. I do know when my poor old mother died last year, she wanted her wedding ring to go to my youngest daughter. And we knew she kept it in with her rosary beads because it was after her fingers were getting so thin, it was falling off. So anyway, after everything was over, the funeral, we were there at my house and myself and my sister were going through, and I said, Dana, Mam's wedding ring is not in with her rosary beads. So we had all these stuff there belongs to her, went through it all, couldn't find it. I said, Elizabeth, I can't find it, honey. You know, we'll keep looking, we'll find it. So we were having supper that evening and my brother was there and he said, did you find the ring? And I said, no, never found it. So he said, let me have a look. He went over and we were after praying this good St. Anthony then. He went over and took out the rosary beads, and when he opened it up, the ring fell out. And we nearly died. I said, it must have been tangled up with the rosary beads. So that's the only explanation, but why is it both of us missed it? And he didn't, it fell out. Fell out of the rosary beads when my brother opened it. Yeah.
It's gas, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And like, there was no explanation. But I said it must have been tangled up with him. But Dana said, I just took him out and looked in, it wasn't there. So I don't know.
We won't keep it much longer, but do you remember, you said your mother passed away last year, was it?
Yeah, last year. Yeah.
I know at home, on All Souls night,
yeah,
we sometimes people leave a candle in the window to remember the dead.
Yeah.
Did you used to that?
Yeah, we used to do that. We don't do it as much now. I know I don't do it, but for years ago, even and when someone was waking, you'd put a candle in the window. You'd put the candle in the window when they were waking, especially in the church and that, right? Yeah, you'd put the candle in the window. But I remember that. I remember lots of people doing that, putting the candle in the window on All Souls Day.
Serious?
Yeah, I can remember. I can remember that.
Yeah. Was that up in Kilbride?
Yes, there was.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Have you seen it down here?
I haven't seen a lot of it there. I've heard of it, but I haven't seen a lot of it, right? But up in Kilbride, that was common to put the candle in the window on All Souls Day, right? Yeah.
I see some of the grandly them at home, people at home would have left the door open, a little bowl of water, a little bit of food for the souls to come in. Did you come across that? No, I never come across that, right? No.
Have you come across that here now? No, I see some of them older people in Branch must remember that, do they?
I have one man actually who contacted me, said he remembers the food being left out.
Yeah.
It wasn't in Branch though, somewhere else in Newfoundland.
Yeah.
Tell me this as well, were you ever told as a little one not to go out on All Souls night because the souls will be walking around?
Yes. Oh, we were. And I used to say, I always thought it was a way of keeping us in after Halloween, right? But we heard that lots of times. Don't go out on All Souls night, you don't know who you're going to meet, they mightn't be alive, right? We were told that a lot, right? Yeah. But I don't know if that's big out here. That way in Kilbride it was. So that was one of the things I guess that got carried over, right? Yeah, I can remember that.
And tell me this, please, you ever told as well, my mother would say if you're throwing out the dishwater years ago.
Oh yeah. Turn out the baby in the dishwasher.
No, you wouldn't throw it out on All Souls night in case you'd wet the souls.
Okay, no, I never heard that.
No.
I know about throwing out the dishwater water. I don't know.
Don't throw the baby out with dishwater.
Yeah, but no, there was something else about throwing out the dishwasher. I don't know, dishwater. I don't know what it was, but there was something, so maybe that's what it was.
Did you ever say, sometimes my mother would say, if they were throwing out the water, they'd say, hug it.
No, never heard that.
Hug it. They'd be warning someone the water's coming.
Oh no, never heard that, right? Yeah.
And so the 2nd of November is All Souls.
Yeah.
Did you have the rounds in the chapel where you go in, say a prayer, come out, walk around, go back in, say a prayer?
No, we just have mass.
Yeah.
Have mass for All Saints and the next night for All Souls.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Halloween was big here, was it?
Halloween was big here, yeah. Not so much now because so few kids, but Halloween. I grew up though in Kilbride, and our Halloween was. You were talking about the May tree, is we had to do a treat with our neighbour next door, Mrs. White, in order to get a treat. We had to do a trick, or sing a song, or a dance, or something. She wouldn't just give you the candy and that for the sake of giving it to you. We had to do something but not out here, they're not. Although Chantel told me she made the kids do something last year in order to get a treat from them.
And when you were a little girl, did you put a mask on you?
Yeah, mask on, yeah. You wore a mask. You had a costume, but you wore a mask. Yeah. You never went with a painted face or anything, you wore a mask.
So no one would know you?
Yeah, no one would know you, right? Yeah.
And change your voice. And
that's right. And they're trying to guess who you are.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, they're trying to guess who you are.
Did you call it a wizard at all? Did you ever hear the word a wizard?
No.
Did you ever hear the word of fasogny?
No.
A little mask on your face, cover up.
Yeah. And like mummering in town wasn't big like it was out in these areas, right? Because I always figured mummering was a spin-off from Halloween, right? Where they put on the masks and.
Now here, come and ask you another one. Do you remember as a little girl being told at the spark of midnight on Christmas Eve night, if you went outside,
the animals were kneeling down? Yes, we were told that. And how often? Because I remember George. They had cattle, they had cows and horses, right? Sheep. And I used to say, I wonder, George said, when he was growing up, he said, I never ever saw it. And our neighbour just up from us, Peter Cameron, who's long gone now, poor man, always had sheep, and a very holy man, right? And I can remember, he used to count the collection up here with me, And I can remember saying to him, Peter, did you ever go out on Christmas Eve to see if the sheep actually kneel down? He said, I never ever saw him kneel down, but I did see him being, all of a sudden, it's complete silence. He told me that. He heard complete silence. It was nothing. He could hear nothing. He went up there, he said a couple of times, that because that years ago used to be mass at midnight, so he wouldn't be there. But he said when they changed it to like earlier in the night, he said a couple of times he went up there, they weren't kneeling, but they were completely silent. You know how he said sheep are always baying? No, complete silence for a minute or two. It's almost like he said that they were actually listening for something. Yeah, he used to tell me that. But he said he never saw him kneel. But I often wondered that, we were told that too, that all the animals kneel at 12 o'clock, right, on Christmas Eve. Yeah, yeah, we grew up with that too, right, yeah.
We was told on Easter Sunday morning the sun would be dancing.
Yeah, the sun will be dancing on Easter Sunday morning, yeah, yeah. Oh yes, definitely. If you got up early enough to see it, but even if you did get up, I never saw it, but I can remember being told that the sun dances on Easter Sunday morning, right, yeah, yeah. But I always associated that with Famine, because remember when the asked for the miracle, the sun was supposed to have danced in the sky. That was another thing. We all grew up with the saints. I mean, the kids today don't even know what the saints are. Right? Like I said down in school the other day, Monday, it was the feast of Our Lady of Fatima. I could have said in Dutch to them. They didn't know what I was talking about. Yeah. And I said it was the feast of, and I said school's named after Our Lady of Fatima. But they didn't connect.
Did you have St. John's Day or St. John's Eve here?
No.
24th of June?
No.
You had St. Peter and Paul's Day?
Oh, St. Peter and Paul's big, 29th of June. That's big. And even Lady Day in August, 15th of August. Those 2 days.
And St. Peter and Paul's Day at home, we'd normally dig the spuds on that day and have a feast. Now our spuds were earlier than yours.
Yeah, that's right. No, it was a big fishing day here for the parish. It used to be years ago the day the fishermen went out and whatever they got or portion of their catch went to the parish that day. It was a big... they'd support the parish at that, and the priest to go out fishing. We had a priest there, Jerome Hann. He used to go out with George. He was here for 6-7 years. George said he'd be on the CB, and he said, "Now boys, keep her down today. The priest is out there," because you didn't know what they were going to be saying out there. And a scattered fella come back thinking you were telling them lies, and say you're not going, and cursing away, you're not going to fool me. And then Father Hann would come out and say, "And how are you today?" George said he was getting awfully quiet then, right? Yeah.
So whatever fish you catch, you give to the parish? Give to the
parish that day, yeah. And it wasn't mortal latsy back then, right?
Yeah.
And even if it was, that's what you did. You fished for the parish on the 29th of June.
And would everyone have a big feast to fish that evening?
No. They just fished for the parish that day.
And who'd benefit from the priest?
The parish.
Parish.
Parish, you get that collection, right? They come in, check could come to the parish then from all the different fishermen, right?
Oh, so the fishermen, whatever they catch, whatever they'd sell then.
They had a bin there. They said at that time they used to put their fish in bins.
Yeah.
So they'd have a bin there and they'd fill that. They keep filling it, weighing it and selling it then. But it was for the parish that day. Everybody knew they fished for the parish, and you wouldn't dare not fish for the parish, because you'd have no luck if you didn't fish for the parish on the 29th of June. Like they had her sized up pretty good. Yeah, they didn't dare not fish for it, even if they weren't strong churchgoers, they still fish for the parish on June 29th if they were out fishing. Yeah, yeah.
And it's because Peter and Paul were fishermen?
Yeah, Peter and Paul were fishermen, and it was a big day. I don't know. So Jerome used to have mass at 4 o'clock in the morning there.
Did not?
Used to have mass at 4 o'clock for the fishermen to go to mass before they go out fishing. Yeah, used to have mass at 4 o'clock in the morning, and the church would be full of fishermen. Yeah.
And the men that go out there and do their day's work?
And go out and do their day's work and give their catch to the parish. Yeah.
You're saying they can't do it now? They
can't do it now because, for one thing, it was fish, and the fish not even open in June. It doesn't open now till July. So it'll be crab, and most of them will be finished. They won't be fishing cod then. It's too early for cod. Right? And see, the government has it changed that way now. They have it quoted and certain times of the year, so there's nothing the fishermen can do about it, right? They can just pick a day to give donations to the parish. Yeah.
So that's gone then?
Oh, that's gone. The fishing on Peter and Paul's for the parish, that's gone. Yeah. That went with the moratorium. When they brought in the moratorium, right? That
when
went.
Was the
moratorium came in 92.
Okay.
92 was the moratorium. And it lasted for 4, 5, 6 years. 6 years, yeah. Yeah.
changed
Oh,
overnight.
the fishery changed completely then. It was so regulated, and fishermen had to go and do all these courses, and it was hard on some of those fishermen. They'd never been in a classroom in 60 years. All of a sudden they'd go back to school, right? But
Can they swim?
can I swim?
Can the men swim?
Very few of the men around here can swim. Because, like George said, they were all... You start off on the wharf cutting out tongues, and they can't do that anymore now. But you started off on the wharf cutting out tongues and sounds, and then you graduate from there to the boats. You never time in summer. Summer wasn't playtime, summer was work time, when you could make a few dollars.
But very few of the men could swim.
Swim, no. Never learned how to swim because it was always work, right? It was always work. They used to cut out the sounds, he said, and they'd fill up drums. I forget what it was now. They'd fill up the drum. Maybe it was sounds, and sell it in the fall. Then sell it in August and get money then for your clothes to go back to school. Right? Yeah.
So when the fine weather came, you had no time to be going learning to swim.
No, you were either at the down on the wharf or you're in the meadows at hay. Right? Because they all had horses and sheep and that, right? Yeah. And you were in the meadows at hay, cutting hay, or you were down on the wharf. Yeah.
Come here, I won't keep you. The last thing I'll ask you was, again, I found this in Branch, but it might be different here. Do you remember on New Year's Eve night at 12 o'clock the shotguns being fired?
Yes, they still do that here. And they do it too when people get married. When they're going up the road, you know, the wedding procession, you know, they're after being married, they fire the shotguns, yeah. Yeah, they still do that.
Still do that?
Still do that here, yeah. And still do it, like I said, for weddings and New Year's Eve.
And would your husband fire the gun on New Year's Eve?
Oh yes, definitely. Definitely fire a gun. Even the fireworks, I said, that does. He don't fire them now if the grandkids are out, but if the grandkids aren't home, he'll fire his gun.
So you could be sitting inside there
and all of a sudden you'll see him going with the gun, going out shooting off shots. Because it's 12 o'clock.
How the neighbours do it?
Oh yes, yeah. His brother-in-law lives just 2 houses down, he'll do it too. They kind of answer each other, right? Yeah. But there's lots of people here fire guns on New Year's Eve. Yeah, lots of people. And like I said, weddings. When the wedding procession is going up the road, they're firing the shots. Lord. Yeah.
To mark the turn into the new year.
Yeah.
In with the old, in with the new and out with was it?
I said, yeah, in with the new, out with the old and in with the new. Yeah, out with the old and in with the new, yeah.
Lord. Listen, that's time for you to go. Listen, thanks a million for your time.
Oh, not a problem. You'll be down to school again for your go, sure, will you?
Yeah. We're going to get a photograph here. Sit down there.